Tov Rabotai, we're continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Sheviit. Today's Mishon should be Leinu Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Aranbai Menuchato Began Eden Amen. We're up to Perek Hey Mishnah Aleph. We know, Rabotai, the Torah explains to us that fruit that emerges on a tree during Shemitah has Shemitah sanctity. The Torah refers to the stage as Chanata, when the petals of the flowers fall off. Now, they have Shemitah sanctity. Because they have Shemitah sanctity, it has a number of restrictions. The Mefarshim tell us it has to be eaten or consumed in a food-like way. It cannot be disposed of. It cannot be used for business purposes. It cannot be guarded by the owner of the field in which it grew. It has to be able to be taken by anybody. And in general, in addition, most Shemitah produce requires bi'ul, destruction, that we spoke about earlier on. So the Mishnah now is going to discuss that the fruit that emerges on the tree during Shemitah, it has Shemitah sanctity, even if it doesn't ripen until after Shemitah. The Mishnah is going to give two examples. Benot shuach, we said earlier, the Rav explains as white figs. Some say benot shuach are a species of pine with edible cones that was called white fig tree, but the Rav just says white figs. Benot shuach Sheviit shelaim shniya. Benot shuach have their Shemitah in the second year of the 7-year cycle. What does that mean? Benot shuach, these white figs that ripen in the second year after Shemitah, have the status of Shemitah produce. Why? Because they grow over 3 years. Unlike most produce, which is ripened the year they come out, benot shuach, these white figs, take 3 years to ripen. So it comes out, those that ripen in the second year after Shemitah must have emerged during Shemitah, and therefore they're subject to the Shemitah restrictions. On the other hand, benot shuach that ripen during Shemitah, they do not have Shemitah sanctity because they must have emerged before Shemitah. Right, another type of fruit that takes more than a year to fully ripen. Rabbi Yehuda says, parsaot is also, the Rav says, a species of fig. Others say that it's a type of date, but again, the Rav says a species of fig. Rabbi Yehuda says, parsaot, this species of fig, Sheviit shelaim motzei Sheviit, they have their Shemitah in the year after the 7th, meaning these species of fig, these parsaot that ripen the year after Shemitah, they have the status of Shemitah produce because they grow over 2 years. Meaning, since these fruit take 2 years to grow, those that ripen in the year following Shemitah must have emerged during Shemitah and therefore again have Shemitah sanctity. Amrulo, but the sages disagreed with Rabbi Yehuda. The Chachamim told Rabbi Yehuda, lo amru ele benot shuach. They only said that a crop ripens after Shemitah and therefore it has a status of Shemitah produce only by white figs. Only in the case of white figs did we learn that fruit ripening after Shemitah is subject to the Shemitah laws. But all other fruit, including pasot, this species of figs, if they ripen during Shemitah, that which ripens during Shemitah, they have Shemitah sanctity. But if it ripens after Shemitah, it does not have Shemitah sanctity. In contrast to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that most pasot ripen in the year after Shemitah, and the Chachamim hold that most pasot ripen that same year. So if it ripened during Shemitah, it has Shemitah sanctity. If it ripened after Shemitah, it does not have Shemitah sanctity. And the Rav tells us halacha, ve'en halacha Rabbi Yehuda, the halacha does not follow Rabbi Yehuda. We only say this halacha benot shuach by these white figs. That is an abotai of Mishnah Aleph. Mishnah Bet, now actually the next 4 Mishnayot, they're going to speak about a type of onion called luf. That's how the Rav explains it. Rashi learns luf as a type of bean, but again the Rav says that it's a type of onion. After being picked, generally they would bury it in the ground to preserve it for use in the future. So the Chachamim decreed that since burying luf, this onion, looks like an act of planting, which is asur on Shemitah, a person cannot bury luf, this onion, on Shemitah, except under certain situations. Hatomenet aluf b'shvit, if a person buries luf during Shemitah, Rabbi Meir says that he has to meet the following conditions. Lo yifchot misatayim, he cannot bury less than 2 se'at, 12 kav of luf in a single hole, ad gavosh 3 tefachim, and he must pile it up to a height of at least 3 tefachim in the hole, the tefach afar al gabav, and he must put at least a tefach of dirt on top of it. Why? Because since luf bulbs are planted by scattering them around, piling many of them together in a tall heap shows that they are being stored and not planted. Also, when you bury them under a tefach of dirt, you're showing that they're being stored, not planted, because when something is planted, it's covered by just a thin layer of dirt. The Chachamim disagree with Rabbi Meir about the first 2 conditions, but they accept the third and they add a 4th. The Chachamim amrim, but the sages say, Lo yifchod me'arba'at kabim, he cannot bury less than 4 kav of luf in a single hole, as opposed to the 12 kav required by Rabbi Meir. Ad gova tefach, he has to pile it up to a height of at least a tefach, as opposed to the 3 tefachim of Rabbi Meir. V'tefach afar al gabav, he has to put at least a tefach of dirt on top of it, like Rabbi Meir said. and he has to bury it in a place upon which people constantly trample on, because the trampling of people on the ground above the roof prevents it from sprouting. Therefore, burying it in this place shows that you didn't intend to plant it. And the Rab tells us Halacha Kechachamim, that Halacha follows the sages and not Abimael. That is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Everybody should have a Shavua Tov. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.